Good afternoon. Welcome to another class. I am sorry to interrupt your wonderful playlist to give you MAP4C. Normally, this is when you get to hear the wonderful music. And I'm jumping in with some grade 12 foundations for college mathematics. Yesterday, we had our network disruptions. We got upgraded, so we are good to go now, but yesterday there were no classes. Today we're doing some makeup classes. It's going to be a little bit off schedule for the rest of the week. And tomorrow. Tomorrow we have more makeup classes. Friday we have our wonderful podcast, the In Digital Voices, happening Friday morning with a makeup class in the afternoon. And weird, different schedule, but stay tuned for those social media updates as to when your makeup classes will be taking place. We have teachers in community today. If you're in Sandy Lake and you're listening, feel free to stop in, visit WASA. They are located behind the Northern store. They are there until 6 p.m. today. You can meet Bonnie and Michelle, bring your homework, get some tutoring support. You can apply for courses and ask questions. Use them, visit them, and stay tuned for other community visits that are being planned and coming shortly to you. We are finishing our Term 1A schedule. We are on week 9 of 9. Today is our unscheduled but makeup class. Normally I broadcast Monday to Thursdays from 10 a.m. until about 11, going through the MAP4C curriculum material. Because of our network disruptions yesterday, there were no classes. I was also in community visiting Mishkagogamain, and it was a wonderful trip, wonderful to see students, wonderful to help students with questions that they had, as well as meet new students and get them registered. Tomorrow we will have class as normal on Thursday at 10 a.m. and Friday we don't have any scheduled classes. We are presenting the In Digital Voices podcast, Season 2, Episode 4. It's going to be all about Halloween, so that one's pretty exciting. And like I said, there will be the language class, makeup class happening on Friday. Tomorrow will be makeup class for PLAR. There will be 2 classes as our teacher Bonnie is in Sandy Lake. Otherwise, we are just trying to wrap up our credits for this term. Next term starts on Monday, November 10th. The end of Term 1A is Friday, October 31st. The beginning of Term 1B is November 10th, giving us teachers a week for administrative purposes. We do report card writing and PD sessions, learning how we can better assist and help you as students. And you get that week off to transition, mentally prepare for whatever class comes next. I have on my board in front of me here the Term 1B radio Zoom schedule. I will still be broadcasting from 10 to 11, but instead of going through the grade 12 Foundations for College Mathematics course, I'm going to be presenting the DC030. That is our co-op course. If you are a student who needs 1 or 2 electives and you're currently working, feel free to reach out to us here at WASA. Co-op could be the answer for you. We still have PLAR happening between 11 and 12, but we'll be transitioning to science and math instead of this term's English, history, and geography. We have a new NBV3E with our new teacher, Elliot Dockstader-Wynn, coming in from 1 to 2 p.m. Doug will be moving from ENG4C to ENG3E next term. Margaret's still going to be presenting our language course. and Jillian is moving away from OLC4O to give you ENG4E. Lots of exciting things happening, lots of courses that are being offered. If you need them, if you want them, please reach out to us. If you don't finish any of the courses that you're working on right now by October 31st, that's okay. You can still continue to work on them. We will still be around. It's just we're switching gears for the online, on-air radio Zoom schedule. As we come to the end of our term, I want to reiterate again the student draw, the giveaways that will be happening next week. We are doing 2 draws. The first draw is for lessons submitted. Every time you submit a lesson, your name gets entered into the draw. Once you have completed all 20 lessons and you're culminating or your exam and you're successful, you get the credit, your name gets entered into a second draw. Extra motivation. We know you want to get the credits so you can graduate, earn your diploma. This is just an added bonus. To submit your work, remember you're only getting key questions to me. Those are the only ones that are for grades. Your support questions are just for practice. Today we're going to explore some of those support questions, walk through where you can find the answers and what it means and what it looks like. But the support questions are just for practice because all of the answers are given to you at the back of each unit. Multiple ways to be submitting work. You can scan your work. If you've got an Apple device, the Notes app on your Apple device has a scan feature. Android devices and Apple devices, you can have Google Drive, and they also have a scan feature that just allows for the files to be more compressed and easily sent. Taking a picture works, but it takes up a lot of memory and space, and it's nice to be able to scan and send your work. When you send your work, we ask that you email it to studentwork@nnec.on.ca so that it can be tracked. We can make sure that your work is coming in, it's being sent to the proper teacher, and we have a copy of it should you need it back for completing your culminating or whatever it might be. If you're in community and your community has a learning center, feel free to swing by and give your completed work to your DEC. They can always forward work through to us. If you're in town here, you can stop in our WASA building, check it out, meet teachers, ask questions. If you happen to come after business hours and you just have work that you want to hand in, we do have a mailbox outside by our side entrance. Lots of ways to be earning this credit by submitting work. If you have any questions at all, whether it's about this course or future courses or how to submit work or where to download apps, any way I can help, please don't hesitate to email, phone, or connect with me on Facebook. My office hours are 9 to 3. If you're working on your course material or a question comes up in the evening, please send me an email or leave a voicemail, and I will happily return it when I am back in office. This morning, during our regularly scheduled MAP4C class time, we went through our Unit 2 review. Today, right now, I should say, this afternoon, we are going to deepen our understanding by reviewing concepts from lessons 11 to 15, our Unit 3 review. Lesson 11, we looked at survey design. In Unit 2, we talked about scatter plots and use and misuse of statistics, and we're building off of that and looking at survey design in Lesson 11. Some highlights from Lesson 11 were we talked about how surveys are used to gather information. We now know that a sample needs to be typical of the entire population, and that sampling techniques can be random or non-random. We have a better understanding that for results to be valid, survey questions must be unbiased. Interviews can be conducted in a variety of ways, and when you're creating a survey, you should consider question types as well as question order. So breaking it down and looking a little bit more deeply at what we reviewed in Lesson 11, we talked about how the data collected from surveys can be factual or subjective. Factual is when they're based on facts. Subjective is when it's based on opinion. We talked about sample size, how the size of your sample can affect survey results. If the sample is too small, the results may not be reliable. So this is building off of the scatter plots, finding that correlation. If there's not enough data points, then you don't have a strong correlation. Your results might not be reliable. On the other hand, if your survey size, your sample size is too great, the survey could be costly. It could be difficult to administer. We looked at the different ways to survey populations, and we'll go through it again today as part of our review, thinking of those pros and cons, how some of them are more costly and can be difficult to administer. We spoke of a representative sample. A sample needs to be typical of the entire population. That's what we mean by a representative sample. If the sample's not representative, then it's biased, and the survey results will definitely be invalid. Going further into sampling techniques, we know that they can be random or non-random. Random sampling techniques could be simple random sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, whereas non-random could be convenience sampling, judgment sampling, or voluntary sampling. When you're designing a survey, it's so important to be mindful of biases. Biased questions will restrict people's choices unnecessarily, or use words that could influence people to answer in a certain way. As we were going through Lesson 11, we went through some examples of how the wording can be leading and make people answer in a certain way. We know that for results to be valid, your survey questions must be unbiased. Then we got into survey techniques. When you're designing a survey, one factor to consider is how the survey is conducted. This is especially important if any of the questions are about sensitive subjects. People are more likely to answer honestly if they can reply anonymously and in writing. We covered survey design. If you turn to page 2 of Unit 3, we get into the steps in a survey project. The first is to establish the goals of the project. With clear goals, you get clear results. You want to determine your sample, which we now know, the sample size, we know the representative sample. Number 3 is choosing interviewing methodology, and 4 is then creating your questionnaire. So when you're choosing your interview methodology, there are different methods to consider. You want to consider how you will interview people. Will it be a personal interview, a telephone survey, maybe a mail or email survey, or an internet, online survey? Your questionnaire, when you're building your questionnaire, when you're designing it, you have to be sure that the questionnaire fits the medium. So think of what will you ask and how are you going to ask it. Consider the data being collected. Do you need to show the product? Do you need to show the sample? Because then you're not going to do a phone interview or a phone survey. You'll want something where your sample can sample. When you're designing your survey, you want to keep in mind the question types. There are 3 basic types of questions. Multiple choice, which is a closed question. Numeric open-end questions, that's when you allow your population to say a number. And text open-end, same thing. You're giving them the freedom to write what they want. Not only do we need to consider the question type, but the question order. It's important to keep in mind that results can be affected by either A, planting an idea, or B, habituation. When you're planting an idea, you're leading them to give a certain answer, and habituation is when you're repeating a lot of the same thing, they've stopped reading it and they're just answering out of habit. 115. You want to find out which political party will win in your provincial riding for the next election. What is your target population? This comes from support question number 1, found on page 9 of lesson 11. I want to go through support questions this unit review to show you how they can be helpful and what they can assist you with and how they can give you a little bit more background information. So page 9 has support question 1. Now remember, these ones are just for practice. So if you haven't done them during the regular term, feel free to do them now. They're a wonderful, excellent test prep. It's like a practice quiz. Test yourself and see if you can answer the following questions. So number 1 is you want to find out which political party will win in your provincial riding for the next election. What is your target population? Think about everything we learned and come up with an answer. Then flip to the back of the unit. If you go to page 50 of 56, we have the support question answers. They give guiding answers, examples, or the right answer if we're actually coming up with a numeric solution that we need. It will be there in your support question answers. So it's broken down into lesson 11, lesson 12, lesson 13. You can focus in or hone in on the specific question that you're practicing. For us, we're on lesson 11, looking at support question 1, and that's the first one that comes up in our support question answers on page 50. It says that the target population is all voting age residents of your local provincial riding. If you got that same answer, congratulations. If you didn't get that answer, maybe go back and find out target population, refamiliarize yourself with the term and what it means. You can grab a post-it note, grab a bookmark, you can dog-ear the page, however works, and flip back and forth. You can flip then back to support question number 2. Says the school is trying to do a survey on what the new school color should be. The teachers of the school interview 10 students. Then they make their decision on those responses. Is the sample size large enough? If not, why not? It's also good to practice reading the whole question. It's not just a yes or no. It wants you to expand. If it's not, explain why not. So if you flip back to page 50, where the support question answers are, and you read lesson 11, support question number 2, it says, depending on the size of the school, 10 students is likely not enough to have a true understanding of the students' desires regarding the new school colors. So they're saying no, it's not enough. It's not a large enough sample size, and that's because most schools have more than 15 people. 10 would be great if your school was just 15 people, but if your school is 500 people, not even close. We need a much larger sample size. We would not have enough data to have a strong correlation. If you feel like, oh, these are easy, I've got this, I remember this, a lot of it's common sense, and that's awesome. You can skip the rest of the practice questions and go to the next lesson. If you feel like, okay, I kind of got it, I would have gotten some marks, but I don't feel like it would have been my best answer, then you can continue. Go to support question number 3. It says a radio station is conducting a survey on whether too much hip-hop music is on the radio. They interview people as they leave a senior's home. A question asks you to describe the flaw in this survey and what could be done to make it more valid. So think about, what is the flaw? What could be done? You might have a different answer than what's in the back, but you can see if you're on the right track. So the support question answer says, the individuals interviewed are likely all from the same age bracket and are unlikely to know what it is or want to support the hip-hop genre. More diversity is needed to get a true representation and more valid results. Were you along those lines? Were you thinking of specific solutions? Because that's amazing. If you say what could be done to make it more valid would be to go to different places, maybe try outside a mall, outside a coffee shop, outside a store, outside. If you gave specifics so that you get that diversity, then you're great. You're on the right track. Use the support questions to help you study for our final exam that's coming up. Again, not to scare you. It's not like we're going to have you come down, sit you in a room for 3 hours. This is an open book exam. You get to use the information that you've learned. You don't have to come in. You're not timed. You can do it as you need to. But I would encourage you to see what you can do if you're going off to college. If you're going off to college, it's a good skill to learn to get into study habits, make study cards, make a cheat sheet. Some programs you'll be allowed to bring in a cheat sheet. Other programs you can't. See if the cheat sheet that you made was sufficient enough. Did it cover everything from all 20 lessons? Or were there things that you forgot? It's a great habit to get into and a wonderful skill to know if you're headed off to college. We are going to skip over the remaining support questions so that we get everything in, and looking at lesson 12 where we talked about the media and data management. Our highlights that were the big takeaways from lesson 12 are that the media is the primary source of reporting information. We always need to consider the reliability of a source, though. We want to be informed, critical thinkers, so that we can take away the information that is true from what we're being presented with. We also talked about how polls are surveys of a topic used to find out people's views. Page 11 of lesson 12 talks about statistics in media, how television, radio, newspapers, and websites often report statistical data. To understand these reports, you need to be familiar with statistical language that they use. Coming back to that terminology, the vocabulary. It is important to recognize and understand common statistical words used in the media so that we can make decisions based on data, so that we're not cheated or taken advantage of due to lack of knowledge, and so that we are informed citizens who are able to understand issues in the world around us that involve data. Some of that vocabulary that you'll come across is percentile. Percentile tells approximately what percent of the data are less than a particular data value. Percentiles are a great way to rank data when you have a lot of data or if you want to keep data private. It's a good way to just generalize you're in the 78th percentile, as an example. You might also come across the word quartile. Quartile is any of 3 numbers that are separated and sorted data set into 4 equal parts. So the 3 numbers are, if we were to draw a line in our data, here on the board, the example that I have, it's a list of numbers. It's our data set. And so it's as if we're putting a box around it, and we want to divide it into 4 equal parts. We're saying that the first set is our first quartile. It's the lower quartile. Then we were to have our second, our third, and our fourth. It's highlighted by that number that separates. So the number that separates, the number that's on that line, those are our quartiles. The first quartile is the lower quartile, the third quartile is the upper quartile, and that second quartile is right in the middle. It's the median. We've talked about data reliability. When you're presented with statistical data, consider the reliability of a source. Data from government agencies are usually more reliable than data from sources trying to sell a product or promote a point of view. We practiced some questions when we went through this unit of who's more likely to give you an unbiased truth. You want to look at the point of view that they're coming from. Are they trying to push an agenda or a topic or a sale? Because that would affect it. We talked about polls and how polling companies conduct interviews with randomly selected Canadians to determine their opinions about a variety of topics. These surveys are called polls. We talked about the margin of error. The results of polls are often reported in the media, particularly during elections, and poll results usually state a margin of error. This margin of error describes how reliable the data are. Much like when we're looking at line of best fit and we have the correlation coefficient, that number is letting us know how strong the correlation is. The closer it is to -1 or +1, the stronger it is. The same rings true for a margin of error. It's describing how reliable the data are. If you turn to lesson 12 and you're reading through your material, it'll teach you about the media, data management. It gives examples and then a solution, and then it lets you practice one yourself. So on page 14 of 56 of Unit 3, support question 1 says, when purchasing a vehicle, the value of the vehicle depreciates significantly after purchase. Following are 2 graphs using the same data showing the depreciation of a vehicle over the first 10 years. A asks, when looking at both graphs, what are the first impressions you get with regards to the rate of depreciation of the vehicles? This is what we were talking about. Looking carefully at what are our labels, what are the values of the y-axis and the x-axis. Is it an appropriate scale? Is it showing the whole picture? When you look at graph A, you see a less steep of a decline, whereas graph B is very drastic. It's a huge drop. So you can be thinking about some of these things, and then you can turn to the back. Turn to page 50, where it goes through all of lesson 11. Page 51 is lesson 12. And lesson 12A, the answer, graph A seems to decrease at a slower rate, or conversely, graph B seems to decrease at a quicker rate. It's a much more drastic drop. So you can go through and you can see if you're on the right track. Do your answers align? And try that with a few of them. When you feel like you're getting the hang of it, you can skip and move on and go to the next question or the next unit or lesson. Go to the next lesson, which we'll do. We'll go to lesson 13, where we talked about imperial and metric measurements and conversions. Flipping gears, we're moving away from graphs and charting and coordinate pairs, and we're going to go into the imperial and metric measurements and conversions. We learned in lesson 13 that the metric system was first introduced to Canada in 1871. It was used to measure objects according to length, weight, volume, or time, and it's not was, it still is. The metric system is based on the decimal system, as it includes numbers in powers of 10. So the metric system measures objects according to length, weight, volume, or time. Based on the decimal system, it includes numbers in powers of 10, therefore based on units of 10. This is wonderful for when we need to convert units within the metric system. Made it beautifully easy. Within the metric system, 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter, 100 centimeters equals 1 meter, 1,000 meters equals 1 kilometer. We have those units of 10. As opposed to, if you look at the imperial system, 12 inches equals 1 foot, 3 feet equals 1 yard, 1,760 yards equals 1 mile. It's not as easy to convert within. And then we have the sort of conversions between. When we're looking at converting between the metric system and the imperial system, we can see that 1 inch is approximately equal to 25.5 millimeters. 1 foot is approximately equal to 30.48 centimeters, etc., etc. You don't have to have this memorized. You will be given a cheat sheet for your exam that has all of the conversion information that you're going to need to complete the questions. When you're looking at completing this section of your exam and you are given your conversions, you know how to go between the metric and the imperial, you're still going to need to create a know and need chart. Remember, when you are converting, it doesn't matter if you're talking currency or weight or length, set up ratios. Remember to put what you know on top, create this need and know chart. And because I don't have a slide of it, we're going to do it here. We're going to do, it's like a tic-tac-toe board. Tic-tac-toe board. We have know, K-N-O-W, and we have need, and then we have our units. So if we know that 1 foot is equivalent to, and if we use our 1 foot is equivalent to our inches, this one's centimeters, but we would put what it is to the side, and then what we need to know 3 feet, so the unknown would be our, the 1 foot is 12 inches, and 3 feet, then it's like putting 1 over 12 equals 3 over x. You cross multiply, x equals 3 divided by 12, or sorry, not divided by, times, because we're cross multiplying. And then you have your answer. So you can set up the whole tic-tac-toe board, or you can just have your ratios with what you know on top. If what you know is feet, then that's what goes on the top. And then what you need to know is the inches, that's what goes on the bottom. So that's your need and know chart. The imperial system, which is not what we use in Canada, but has a basic unit of length that is 1 inch. Each inch is divided up into 16 equal parts. If you've ever looked at a tape measure, it has all these little ticks and size, different lengths of the ticks. 1 part is 1/16, 2 parts would be 2/16, which can be reduced to 1/8. The most common units of measurement in the imperial system are inches, feet, yards, and mile. And it's good to know that because although we joked about it when we did this class, we do still use a lot of imperial units in our day-to-day Canadian life. We will often measure things in pounds. We often will refer to length in inches, feet. And then other times we use our metric system. But I had this graphic of a flow chart of how to measure things like a Canadian, and it was funny because it was true. So good to know a little bit of both of them. The metric system standard unit for measurement of length is the meter. Weight, we're talking kilogram. When you're looking at grams, we had the prefix of kilo, deci, and what they all referred to. Standard unit of measurement of capacity is the liter, whereas imperial system, measurement of length is mile, weight is pound, and capacity is gallon. Now the nice thing is, doesn't matter whether it's metric or imperial, we measure time in hours, minutes, and seconds for both. This is not right. Why do I have on the board find the area of a triangle when we are talking about units of measurement? Let's look at lesson 13. Oh, it is. Find the area of the triangle. Oh, see, this is what I tell everybody. Don't assume. Don't assume. Keep reading. If I had kept reading, I would have noticed it says find the area of the triangle in imperial and metric units. Silly Kobe, I just had to keep reading and then I would know that yes, this is the support question for lesson 13. So again, you don't have to have the formula for the area of a triangle memorized. It will be given to you on your cheat sheet. And all you have to do is use the skills that we've learned to substitute or plug in the information. If we want to know the formula for the area of a triangle, area equals base times height. My base is 8 meters, my height is 6 meters, divided by 2. And we could actually do this. You'll see 8 times 6 equals 48, divided by 2. And you can use mental math or you can use your calculator. You're never going to lose marks. So here we have 24 meters. But we will want to know what that is in both the metric and the imperial. So we have the metric system, meters. You might want to find it in feet or yards. You set up your need and know. And because it doesn't specifically say, you could put whichever one you wanted, but flip to the back where we have our lesson 13 and it's telling us yards and meters. We want to know, we know how many meters, it's 24 meters. We want to know how many yards. So you set up your need and know to find out what it is. And the beautiful thing about the support question answers, it really walks through it step by step. So here they say area equals base times height divided by 2. We type in 8 times 6 divided by 2. 8 times 6 is 48 divided by 2. 48 divided by 2 is 24. So we worked through the first part of the question and then you can convert. I'm getting an alert on my screen that says failed to detect your microphone. Please make sure your microphone is properly connected. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me, but I'm hoping it's being recorded. It said everyone can hear me? Oh, thank you. I didn't see you hiding down there. I got a little bit nervous. Okay, good. Everyone can hear me. We're going to go on then. We're going to move to continue recording. Meeting audio may not be fully recorded. I'm sure that's fine. We're going to click X. Everything's fine. Thank you. I did not see you down there and I got worried that I don't think I kicked anything loose. Perfect. So feel free to go to the back of your unit and check your support answers to make sure that you're on the right track. We have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to skip through to make sure we get lesson 14 in and lesson 15 in. Lesson 14, we talked about perimeter. We know that perimeter is the distance around an object. If the object is a circle, we call it circumference, but it's still measuring around the circle. When you solve composite figures, you want to be sure to identify the shapes and lengths of sides. Composite figures are simply figures that are made up from other more simple figures. You can break down a composite figure into this is a square, this is a semicircle, this is a rectangle, this is a triangle, etc. It's a wonderful way to break it up so you can use the proper formula. There are different formulas depending on the figure. If you want to find the perimeter of a rectangle, you need to use perimeter equals 2 times length plus width. Triangle, you need to say perimeter equals A plus B plus C. We're going around all 3 sides. You don't have to have these formulas memorized. You can see them on your cheat sheet. We know circumference is the perimeter of a circle. There are different parts of a circle. The diameter, remember, is what passes completely through side to side, goes through the center. Whereas the radius is just half of your diameter. It goes from the center to one of the edges. It's not going all the way through. Because a lot of our formulas have pi, it's important to know that pi is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter and is approximately equal to 3.14159. You can just put 3.14. 3.14 is acceptable for pi. Or you can find the symbol. It looks almost like a table. You've got a horizontal line with 2 vertical lines coming down like legs. It's on just about every calculator, your smartphone, depending on the way you hold your phone. At least that's what it is for my Apple phone. Sometimes I have to click. I want the scientific version. But you can find pi and just use the button, which will be more accurate because it will use all of the decimal places. So to calculate the perimeter, you have to first be able to identify what the shape is so you know what formula to use. So if you're looking at support question 1 in lesson 14, you can see if you're on the right track. Go ahead, see if you've identified the shape correctly and then used the correct formula. And the beautiful thing is it walks it through step by step. So you can even see where you went wrong. If you put in the right numbers but you got the wrong final answer, see where you missed a step, see where you went wrong. Maybe it was just a missed button on the calculator. Work your way through each one of those for practice. Lastly is our lesson 15. Lesson 15 covered area and surface area. We know that perimeter measures around an object. Area is the number of square units needed to cover a region. Now this is just a 2-dimensional object and it's the inside. It's measuring the inside of the shape. The surface area is the measure of the area on a surface of a 3-dimensional object. So area covers 2-dimensional, surface area covers 3-dimensional. It's almost Friday. Area has different formulas depending on the shape again. Much like perimeter, if you're calculating the area of a rectangle, you're dealing with length and width, but it's simply length times width. Triangle, we are looking at half of the base times height, or base times height divided by 2, which is what we practiced in lesson 11. And I thought, wait a minute, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. And we were, but it gave us the formula. But this is also why it's important to be able to recognize and name your shapes so you know which formula to use. Make sure that you're familiar with the difference between a parallelogram and a trapezoid so you can input the proper formula. When you're dealing with 3D objects, you really have to be mindful of how many surfaces there are, how many faces there are, the total area of the surface of an object on all of its faces. So if you have a cube, you have the top, the front, the left, the bottom, the back, and the right. There are a lot of sides to it. A measure of the area on the surface of a three-dimensional object gives us surface area, and you've got to break it down into which formula to use based on the figure you're presented with. Familiarize yourself with the difference between a cylinder and a sphere. What is a square-based pyramid compared to a rectangular-based pyramid compared to an isosceles triangular prism? They're the basic shapes that we break down. Square-based pyramid, we've got a square, and then that pyramid. If you're unsure, do a few practices with the support questions in the lesson to work your way through and make sure you're on the right track. If you feel confident with it, skip it, go to the next one. I wanted to show you one last time how to get onto our WASA YouTube channel, because it's a great way to prepare for the exam by going back and looking at those recorded lessons. If you struggled with surface area, this is how you can go back and find where to go. So go to your search engine and type in WASA Distance Education Center YouTube. And there we are, WASA Distance Education Center. Click on our YouTube. You will be brought to our main page where we have home, videos, podcasts, playlists. The videos are the individual videos. If you go to created playlists, you can look up our class specifically. There's all of the PLAR lessons there, all of the MAP4C lessons, all of the native language Cree lessons. We want to find our MAP4C. By clicking on that one, we can look on the side where the playlist is and find, you know that you're struggling with lesson 15, click on lesson 15, and then just make sure that this is the one that you're looking for. You can go down to the description where it says area and surface area. Define and explore area and surface area. Learn how to calculate by solving formulas through substitution. Ding, 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 ding. That's the one that we want. Hooray! So it's just a good way to focus in on getting the support for the concepts that you might feel like you're struggling with. You'll notice some of our classes are divided into multiple. Some of our lessons are divided into multiple classes. Whew, there we go. If lesson 13 was what you were struggling with, the imperial and the metric measurements, for instance, maybe it was just the conversions that you needed. Go and look at the description to see, do I need part 1 or do I need part 2? So part 2 is more of the conversions, and that can be how you focus in on the specific concept that you need help with. If you have any questions or if there's anything directly that I can help you with, if it's during office hours, please feel free to reach out via email. You can email me at Jacoba, Jacoba, .flatt, F-L-A-T-T, at nnec.on.ca. You can call me at my desk, 807-737-1488, extension 2228. You can call us toll-free, 1-800-667-3703, and you could be patched through. Or you can connect with me on Facebook. Find me at, first name would be J Flatt, and last name would be Wasa. But if it's after office hours, please do check out the WASA YouTube channel. Shoot me an email, send me a voicemail, and I'll get back to you as soon as I'm back in.